I'm Dr. Lisa Jones and I'm a Reader in Education based within the Faculty of Arts, Cultures and Education. The cluster I'm going to talk about is called Participatory Place-Based Stewardship for Mobilising Urban Climate Action. The cluster has been developed as a response to the global challenge of climate change, as well as related environmental degradation and the biodiversity crisis. In particular, the cluster arises from a concern that systemic action is not advancing at the scale or speed required. At the same time, for many living in the urban global north, there can often be a disconnect between the urban spaces people call home, and firstly, what legitimately might be deemed as the environment, and secondly, in understanding the impacts of the climate crisis and environmental degradation on their own communities. This is often accompanied by little or often by fragmented information on what can and should be protected, and importantly, what meaningful local and collective action looks like. Our cluster is therefore challenge-based and solution-focused. It draws upon the idea of place to enhance critical climate literacy, as well as attempting to focus on facilitating opportunities to engage in collective action, or stewardship as we are calling this, to preserve and protect the urban environmental commons situated in the urban places many people call home. The cluster is original in its focus as this is an under-researched area. However, it is also innovative in its approach by utilising a participatory ethos across the cluster and all projects. It is developed to work with communities, not about doing research to or on communities. So co-creation is embedded throughout, including developing the projects, including with external and non-academic partners. Our cluster also does something slightly different, as it will have a cluster advisory board, again made up of both academic and non-academic partners. The cluster then has 4 interlinked projects that each focus on an important dimension of our participatory approach to place-based stewardship for mobilising urban climate action. Project 1 is about learning with communities to understand and to map what constitutes the environmental commons within urban spaces and places. Project 2 focuses on learning from the experiences of urban community collectives already engaged in environmental stewardship as a means to support future urban climate action. Project 3 focuses on those underserved communities facing multiple disadvantages that are often hit hardest by climate injustices. It uses creativity to explore place attachment as an important engagement opportunity for place-based stewardship. And finally, Project 4 works specifically with children, young people and schools to explore the opportunities for children and young people to engage, and importantly, the role that education can have in place-based stewardship. An important part of the cluster then overall is about working inclusively, including foregrounding in the underserved communities. Those who, as well as facing a range of socioeconomic inequalities, are also often those most at risk of climate injustices within countries like the UK. They are also hit by further climate injustices because they are often least supported to adapt and or respond to climate challenges, often have the least power, and often their views and experiences are ignored or marginalised. The cluster then aims to support the public, including individuals and collectives involved in environmental action, children, young people, and those underserved communities, to contribute to, develop and enhance knowledge on local environmental commons, what this includes and how it can be protected. This will directly support people's agency and the belief that they can engage in local climate action, which will in turn support and facilitate the protection of those urban places they call home. Professionals, e.g. educators in schools and those employed in private and public sector organisations, as well as the third sector, will also have the potential to benefit from increased knowledge and understanding on how they can support the communities they serve. All of those directly involved in the cluster will also directly develop expertise from engagement with co-production and participatory approaches that they can use and utilise in future climate action. These impacts will be important in terms of facilitating social justice oriented environmental sustainability. So after successfully completing a PhD within the cluster, graduates would have the experience needed to consider an academic career. As well as being part of a healthy and thriving research culture, students will have the opportunity to teach, should they wish, as part of the postgraduate training scheme they will undertake. As the cluster will work with external partners, being a part of the cluster will support students to identify other community-focused roles that may be of interest to them, and support networking across the City of Hull, drawing upon the excellent range of external partners within the public, private and voluntary third sector. So if being part of this cluster interests you, then please follow the information on applying. Thank you for listening.